I just wanted to point out that I've been staring at this screen for a good 20 minutes. It's a live stream of Jeffrey's subscriber count, Gabriel's, Manny's, Laura's and Nikita's, right? And I'm just watching their numbers. This is fascinating. This is actually so entertaining. It's just like Jeffrey's and Gabriel's are going up and the other three are, rapidly declining. Before his apology video, he had 460,000 people. And then he apologised, he did it correctly, and he's growing just so much. Like, I'm honestly living for this drama. I don't like living for drama, but this has gotten to a point where I will sit here for 20 minutes watching all 5 of their subscriber counts. Who does that? I've left watching my live subscriber count. I want to talk about something that, I wouldn't say it's funny. I mean, that is implying that the content I make is funny. That's arrogant of me. But I want to do a part 2 of talking about stuff that's happening. Thoughts from Christian, which is different from my podcast, which is ramblings, mostly about sex. So if you're wondering why the hell I was watching that live subscriber count, click here because there is a part 1 which explains everything that's been going on over the last sort of few days in my mind anyway. But what I wanted to talk about was being on YouTube. It's something that I never ever thought would happen. At the moment I've got just over 60,000 subscribers, which I think is insane. And I think it shows that a lot of people are so bored of content that they will subscribe to the shit I put out. And I very much appreciate that subscription. That's the Illuminati. I just never thought I'd be able to make a living off YouTube and Facebook. And I'm at a point now where I've been doing it for almost 3 years. And I've got a pretty substantial Facebook following. It's over 500,000. And I'm starting to generate a decent amount of income. Not enough to quit my full-time job. So for the last 9. For the last 9 years, I've worked in the radio industry, and I worked for the same company for the last 9 years, and I love them. I've had so much fun. I've always wanted to get into the entertainment industry, and I managed to con everyone into letting me work in radio. What that's taught me is just such an incredible lesson of how the media works, how the entertainment industry is. And radio is very heavily produced. There's a lot of authenticity in radio, but a lot of radio is very heavily produced and planned. Not necessarily scripted, but there's a lot of planning that's involved. There are huge teams of people that work on shows. There's a sales team, there's a marketing team, there's PR, there's lawyers, there's on-air talent, there's audio engineers, there's digital producers, which is where I work now. And for the last 4 years, I've worked as a video producer, which basically means I film the radio show and then I cut it up into small little bite-sized pieces of content to go on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or to go on all the platforms basically. So that experience has taught me a lot on how to edit and a lot on how people consume videos online. And I can definitely attribute the success of growing my Facebook page and YouTube to the experience that I've had over the last few years. What I want to talk about is how fascinating the radio industry and the media industry is. And then you look at sort of the YouTube world and how YouTube isn't classified as a media outlet, yet in my eyes, it is 100% probably the biggest media outlet in the world. To give you some idea of where my head's at, having been in radio and now being on YouTube for 3 years, here's what I see. Mainstream media, in my opinion, is on the decline. But why is that? You've got TV, radio, and newspaper. Now, before the days of the internet, that's where you got your news, your entertainment, basically. And that's where advertisers spent a lot of money promoting their brands and businesses. Then the internet came along and people weren't sure about it, but now people realise the impact that the internet has for the media industry, for the entertainment industry. A huge percentage of people get their entertainment online. Netflix is online, Stan, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Everything is done, like any apps on your phone, it's all internet based. So where has that left TV, radio and newspaper? Well, newspaper is now online. We get our news from online articles. So I don't ever buy a newspaper, so I can pretty much say, in my opinion, newspapers are dead. mainly the older generation read a newspaper. Where has that left TV? TV now has an unbelievable amount of competition, and the advertising revenue that TV brings in is nothing like it was before the internet. So here in Australia, at least, they've really stopped investing in producing TV shows. Trying to think of like Blue Heelers or crime shows, your versions of ER, All Saints. Like, these shows don't really exist on TV anymore. And that's because they're very expensive to produce. And to make a reality TV show, it's so much cheaper. Hence why there's basically free-to-air TV is all reality shows. So where do you get your content from that's not reality? And that's online. So basically, I feel that TV is driving people online more. So it's almost doing itself a disservice. Netflix has an incredible array of documentaries. They're producing a lot of their own series. Altered Carbon I found fascinating. And YouTubers like Shane Dawson are sort of doing these documentaries as well that are so different and that could live on Netflix. And his series really showcases that YouTube as a platform can really do things that Netflix are doing as well. So then you have these platforms that are really, in my opinion, only just starting to boom. YouTube's been around for ages, but I really feel like we haven't properly worked out the place for YouTube. A lot of young people know exactly what YouTube is. And I think a lot of older people, maybe in their 20s and 30s, are understanding YouTubers and what YouTube does. But you've got people in the older end who just tend to write YouTube off as this thing where people make videos. And so because these older people who own businesses and are CEOs of companies, because they grew up listening to radio and TV, they trust radio and TV. So they're investing in advertising on those platforms. What happens in 5, 10, 15 years' time where the younger generations who don't watch TV, don't listen to radio, and don't have any idea what newspapers are suddenly in these positions where they're in charge of promoting their businesses and their companies? Where are they going to spend that money? And as a kid, what did they do? They watched a lot of Netflix and they did predominantly everything on their phone and YouTube. So they are the platforms that they trust. So they're going to spend their money on these platforms, which means TV and radio, in my opinion, even though I work in the radio industry, I still love radio and I love working there, but I just can't see, I don't know what the future holds, but in my mind, I just don't see a big future. I think we can see TV slowly phasing out slowly, and we see the decline in radio. That could just be because I'm retreating from those platforms and I'm only consuming content on my computer. I haven't watched TV, a proper TV, in years. But the way I look at the future of YouTube, I am so excited. I think YouTube is going to be even bigger than what it is today. We're seeing the first wave of original YouTubers sort of go through this, I don't know, is it trajectory of they have this huge success. And for someone like Tyler Oakley, who was the biggest thing in 2015 and 16, and now his channel sort of really died off because I think he had this dream. He did a lot of TV and he was doing a lot of sort of other outlets other than YouTube. And I think the audience that he had on YouTube maybe felt a little bit neglected. And so they don't watch his content as much because he sort of spread himself very thin over a lot of other platforms and outlets. And you've got a lot of these original creators who don't seem to change their content. And you see people, their fans who were a lot younger when they joined, maybe getting a bit bored of what they're doing. And so they're unsubscribing. So you see these really popular channels just dropping off. But then you have a channel like Shane Dawson and you can see, okay, so Shane is incredibly successful, but why? Because I think he's grown with his audience. You came on young, he did sketches and really funny skits in the beginning. Then he changed to doing all the, tasting different foods, which was hugely popular at that time. And now he's completely changed his content again. And it's just stuff that isn't being done on YouTube and people are really loving it. So Shane, I feel like, is the perfect example of someone to watch and to see how his career is and base your I don't know. I can just relate a lot to Shane. He's very funny, and I'm nowhere near as good as he is, but he is goals for me. And I look at him and I see just how successful and how incredibly creative and how his brain works. And he tries a lot of new things and they always seem to work. And that's why I was sort of inspired to talk about this. That's why I was speaking about the beauty community, because these are things in my life that I'm obsessed with. But then I'm like, oh, well, they're not comedy, so why should I do them? But Shane's sort of experimentation has led me to try different things and see what happens. And then you look at something like Shane has 16 million followers. That is insane. That means 16 million people potentially get his video in their feed. Now, that far exceeds any TV show in America. I mean, it's like 4 times the population of Australia.
4 times the population of Australia.
YouTubers have such a humongous audience, and I feel like mainstream media doesn't recognise that, and they don't know what to do with it. Their format and how they've operated for the last 50 or 60 years just doesn't accept YouTubers. It doesn't understand them. You know, they're regular people who just have a camera on a tripod who make videos. If you look at how a radio show operates, you have, for example, a breakfast show would have, we'll say, 3 producers. It'll have a panel op. It'll have a newsreader, an audio producer, a digital producer, 2 talent, which are the people on air, and then you have a content director who advises them on sort of things, and then you have promotions people behind the scenes who help with giveaways and prizes, and you have a music director who picks the music. Like 10 people minimum that make a single breakfast show that goes for 3 hours get to air. Now I'm talking in a big metro market. When you go regional, it's like 3 people. It's the 2 people on air and maybe 1 producer. But in a big metro market, to produce such a slick and successful show, you need to have a huge team of people. Now look at Shane Dawson. It's just him. He has grown his empire. And sure, he now has Andrew that helps him film. And Andrew's, by all accounts, Shane really enjoys working with Andrew. But if you boil it down, it's 2 of them, right? Mainly Shane. Shane has really built this whole empire. And he reaches 16 million people. And there are some YouTubers that make videos every day, every 2 days, and they have huge audiences, and they're just single people. And that's why we see a lot of YouTubers like have burnouts and breakdowns, because they're essentially putting on this radio show, so to speak, every day. And this radio show has 10 people, whereas your radio show, which is visual, has 1 person, and it's just you. And you have to make it all come together. I feel like a lot of people don't give YouTubers credit because it's a lot of work. And some people write it off as, oh, you have fun. You just make some crazy videos. It must be so fun. Yes, it is fun. It's also an absolute shit ton of work. And then you add on the pressures of if you are doing a brand deal, then it's extra work. When you introduce a third party, it's all on you. In a radio show, it's all on the producers. So the talent can focus on making a great show. So when it's just you on your own, you can feel a lot of pressure. And when things don't go right, views, you constantly look at views because you want to make sure that you're rating and that you're relevant and that the content you're making is good and it's strong and people are watching it. You go through all the comments. I completely understand why these people have mental breakdowns. I'm really lucky that my audience is very small in comparison to these people with 16 million views. Did anyone hear that baby? Is that a baby or a cat? I think I've bored that baby to death. I will end by saying this. It is of my opinion, which is based on my experience within the media industry and my very minimal experience on YouTube, is that I really strongly believe that YouTube and Facebook as well will really be strong and successful platforms in the future. And I have complete faith in the people running YouTube and the people running Facebook. They change and adapt a lot. YouTube changes to make sure advertisers are happy. Do they listen to YouTubers? My general consensus from watching a lot of Philip DeFranco is maybe not so much. And Facebook as well, they change a lot. So I don't think they'll ever not be relevant. A lot of people have said years ago, Facebook's going to die. Like maybe that baby. Is that baby all right? Years ago, people said Facebook was going to die. It might not be stronger than ever due to its recent drama, but it's still incredibly strong. When radio was first invented, it was introduced and people didn't get it. They didn't understand what it was. So it had this sort of initial boom and then it dropped completely off and it wasn't a thing. And then I think over time, people discovered the benefits of radio and what radio can be used for. And then it became one of the most successful forms of media of all time. So to look at that, so just because something dies doesn't mean it's gone forever. It just means we haven't worked out how to utilize it properly. And I honestly think that about Facebook and YouTube. They're there, they're strong, we're on the up, but we haven't worked out how to properly utilize Facebook as a society. I just don't, I don't know. But then I don't know what that means. How do we better utilize Facebook? I don't know. We put it on the front of our fridge and, oh, that's a good one. You put it on the front of your fridge and you ask your fridge, hey fridge, look at the ingredients inside, show me a YouTube video that can cook them and teach me how to cook. Really grasping at straws there, but hopefully you get the gist of what I'm trying to say.